I'd like to just share with you one of the stories from one of our participants named Linda, who was a mature age and very passionate early career teacher who had some very strong feelings about the kind of teacher she wanted to be. And that was clearly based around her feeling that teaching was very much a hands-on experience for young people. It needs to be something that engages children in their learning. Linda came to teaching, and in her very first term of teaching she brushed up against the national testing regime here in Australia. And we were very curious about her story in terms of her own pedagogy and sense of self as a teacher, how that actually was impacted upon by the national testing regimes. Now, for Linda, that caused an enormous amount of emotional stress for her in the way she had to teach to the worksheets and prepare children for the national testing for a period of 13 weeks, where her children were becoming very disengaged, they were becoming upset because they weren't doing interesting things, and Linda was feeling very guilty about the way in which her own pedagogy was being compromised by the national testing regimes that were mandated by the school and the system and the way they had to prepare for that. So we were interested in how Linda dealt with that as an early career teacher. And for her, as I said, it caused an enormous amount of angst. And in her language, it was a bit upsetting for her as to how she dealt with that. So Linda's story is an interesting one of how we link back early career teacher resilience to some of those external forces over which teachers increasingly have limited control. Stephen Ball talks about that in terms of teachers' work now being over-regulated and over-determined. So we believe it's really important to look at Linda's story and other early career teachers' stories within that context of mandated official curriculum, national testing, national curriculum, and so on, and how that plays out for early career teachers. So we used Linda's story to see how she worked her way through that and how she was able to counteract some of the excessive features of the worksheet rote learning approach to her own practice, and how she was able to reinvent that in ways that were interesting and novel and worked for the students. So Linda was an interesting case of someone being able to, in a sense, subvert many of the mandated curriculum and pedagogical practices that were occurring in her school.